Hello all you freedom-loving people. Welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. The number of refugees waiting on foot from Mexico into the United States reached an alarming point at the Texas border over the weekend. The White House had to begin the largest deportation operation in its history, but their efforts to give illegal immigrants an avenue to become citizens have not been abandoned, and even after hitting a wall in the Senate, they have indicated that they will continue to figure out other ways. Opinions within the FDA differ on whether to give a third dose of the vaccine. While the FDA advisory panel refused to approve Pfizer's vaccine booster, the FDA's top vaccine official said they are not bound by experts' opinion. And the latest Israeli study shows that the body's natural immunity is more than 10 times better than vaccines. Okay, let's get into it. Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough on September 19th ruled that Democrats can include a provision aimed to give millions of illegal immigrants a pathway to citizenship in their $3.5 trillion spending bill because it is not a budget-related matter. McDonough, in her guidance, said that the Democrats' provision is, by any standards, a broad new immigration policy and that it doesn't meet the stringent requirements of what can be included in the budget resolution. Earlier this month, Democrats proposed to include in their $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill immigration reform measures that would grant amnesty to nearly 8 million illegal immigrants. Immigration reform bills usually require at least 60 votes to pass, which is hard to achieve in the current Senate. If it is included in the budget resolution, it can bypass the filibuster and will only need a simple majority to pass. The Senate parliamentarian rejected the Democrats' effort to give illegals a pathway to citizenship because it would lead to other life-changing federal, state, and societal benefits. But the Democrats are not backing down. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said, Democrats have prepared alternate proposals and hope to schedule additional meetings with McDonough. The U.S. government closed part of the Texas border with Mexico on Sunday, September 19th, to prevent Haitian refugees from entering the United States through Mexico. 3 other flights began the same day to return more than 320 Haitian refugees to the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince. It was the swiftest and largest deportation of illegal immigrants from the United States in decades. Media reports over the weekend indicated that more than 15,000 Haitian refugees have set up camp in Del Rio, Texas. This is what a Fox reporter captured over the weekend as refugees crossed the river from Mexico into U.S. territory.
All right, guys, what you're looking at right now is the U.S. side of the Rio Grande. That is a mass of several hundred illegal immigrants who have just crossed the Rio Grande, and look at this, several hundred more streaming across as we speak. We're on a boat in the Rio Grande. This is the Mexican side of the river right now. You can see it's a never-ending stream. Hundreds of people crossing the Rio Grande basically every hour. And they're heading over to the international bridge, which you can see in the background. Look at that mass of people. This is why the situation under the bridge continues to deteriorate. This is insane. The federal government has to wake up.
Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz reported that more than 3,000 Haitian refugees have been evacuated from this camp, and he expects the remaining 12,000 to be cleared out within a week. According to the Associated Press, the Biden administration plans to schedule 7 deportation flights a day, starting Wednesday, the 22nd, 4 to Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, and 2 to the country's second largest city, Cap-Haïtien. Overall, the U.S. government has decided to deport the vast majority of the Haitian migrants camped out under the bridge in Del Rio. During President Trump's administration, the CDC public health order, known as Title 42, was issued, allowing most illegal immigrants to be deported directly without being given the opportunity to apply for asylum. The Biden administration never applied this policy to the large number of illegal immigrants who had previously arrived from South America, but they did use the order for Haitians and Cuban refugees. It is likely that illegal refugees from South America will become potential Democrat voters when they arrive in the United States, while Haitian and Cuban refugees will most likely become potential Republican voters. Due to the government's deportation operations, some of the thousands of illegal immigrants who have amassed near the Texas border are leaving the United States and returning to Mexico to pick up supplies or to avoid being deported back to their home countries. Illegal immigrants were witnessed on September 20th crossing the Rio Grande to enter Acuna, Mexico. Many are considering their next move. Some will stay in Mexico and some will try to find a different part of the U.S.-Mexico border and try to cross there. This is the scene captured by a reporter from the Mexican side. It seems that the influx of illegal immigrants at the southern border will not be difficult to solve as long as the government takes real action. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas traveled to the area on September 20th to get an on-the-ground operational update and see firsthand the huge litter-ridden camp that was sprung up under the International Bridge in Del Rio. Mayorkas denounced what he describes as false information driving the surge. He said the message to people thinking about making the journey from the south is that our borders are not open and people should not make the dangerous journey. He said, if you come to the United States illegally, you will be returned, adding that many of the immigrants would be deported. On September 20th, the U.S. government announced that travel restrictions for foreign travelers will be eased in November. Passengers who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and who are tested and contact traced will be allowed to fly into the United States. No quarantine will be required upon arrival, but the Biden administration will tighten testing rules for unvaccinated U.S. citizens who will need to be tested within 1 day before returning to the U.S. and again after their arrival. Jeff Zients, the White House coronavirus response coordinator, told reporters that the system is based on individuals, not countries, which is a much stronger system. The new rules do not affect overland travel from Canada and Mexico, where travel restrictions remain in effect. It is unknown when the northern and southern borders will reopen for normal travel. The new policy will still require all foreign travelers entering the U.S. to show proof of COVID-19 vaccination prior to boarding, as well as proof of negative contamination testing performed within 3 days prior to flight. It is unclear which vaccines will be accepted under the new travel requirements and whether vaccines that have not been approved by the FDA will be accepted. In response, the EU Commissioner Thierry Breton posted on social media on the same day, welcoming the lifting of the U.S. travel ban on EU citizens who have been fully vaccinated. The FDA's Vaccine Advisory Panel voted against Pfizer's COVID-19 booster shot for people who are 65 years or younger. Pfizer proposed to the FDA that a third dose be followed approximately 6 months after the second shot of COVID-19 vaccine, but the FDA Advisory Panel rejected the request by a vote of 16-3. They cited lack of evidence that a booster injection in people with a functioning immune system would be a significant benefit. There are two key controversies that influence this decision. The first issue is whether the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine against severe COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations diminished over time. Data from the CDC shows that prior to the surge in Delta variant virus infections, the COVID-19 vaccine provided 72% to 97% protection against infection. However, during the surge in Delta infections, this dropped to 39% to 84%. Pfizer has also reported that shortly after the second dose of the vaccine, the protection was about 88%. However, after 5 months, this rate dropped to 47%. We've talked about these issues in our previous reports, and that may be the reason why our main channel has been suspended. So if you want to find out more about vaccines and immunity, please join us on our membership site. I have posted the link in the description below. Another controversy concerns the safety of the third dose. Pfizer's data shows that in its trial of the booster shots, the side effects were no worse than in the second dose, but this statistic is based on only 300 patients. Dr. Doran Fink, deputy director of the FDA's vaccine division, is concerned that Pfizer's data are not sufficient to determine whether young people are less likely to develop heart inflammation after they have received their third dose. The CDC had previously found a link between the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines and the triggering of heart inflammation in people under the age of 30. That is, there was a significant increase in the number of people who got heart disease after the vaccine, especially in younger people. But for people aged 65 and older, and those at high risk of occupational exposure, booster doses were recommended in an 18-0 vote. National Institute of Health Director Dr. Francis Collins said he believes the COVID-19 vaccine booster use will be expanded despite the FDA panel's rejection. In an interview on September 19th, Collins said that the booster dose will likely be approved in the future. Collins told Fox News Sunday, "I think the big news is that they actually did approve the initiation of boosters. And remember, they're taking a snapshot of right now. We're going to see what happens in the coming weeks. It would surprise me if it does not become clear over the next few weeks that the administration of boosters may need to be enlarged." Collins added that he would be surprised if the boosters are not recommended for individuals younger than 65. Dr. Collins' claim is not an idle one. Dr. Peter Marks, the FDA's top vaccine official, said after the FDA's vaccine advisory panel votes were cast, "We are not bound at FDA by your vote, just so you understand that. We can tweak this as need be." Dr. Collins explained that he supports the third dose of the vaccine because the data shows that the effectiveness of the vaccine decreases over time. He said, based upon the data that we've already seen both in the US and in Israel, it's clear that the waning of the effectiveness of those vaccines is a reality and we need to respond to it. But he failed to mention a recent Israeli study that found vaccinated people are 13 times more likely to get infected than unvaccinated people who were previously infected with the coronavirus. Researchers from Maccabi Healthcare Services and Tel Aviv University in Israel did a study to explore the strength and durability of vaccine protection and natural immunity. The study was published on medRxiv preprint platform. The research team used data from the Healthcare Services database to track the health status of 800,000 Israelis over the age of 16 from June 1st to August 14th. They divided the population into three groups. The first group had 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. The second group had been naturally infected with COVID and were not vaccinated. The third group had been naturally infected with COVID and received 1 dose of the vaccine. The naturally infected refers to those who have been infected with COVID and therefore have protective antibodies in their bodies. The risk of breakthrough infection with the Delta variant was 13 times higher for those who received the vaccine in January and February compared to those who were naturally infected with coronavirus during the same period. The researchers said this analysis demonstrates that natural immunity affords longer lasting and stronger protection against infection, symptomatic disease, and hospitalization due to the Delta variant. Whether vaccinated or naturally infected, the immunity produced will weaken over time. So the researchers again compared people who were vaccinated in January to February and those who were naturally infected with COVID-19 even earlier, such as those who were naturally infected in 2020. Statistics show that people naturally infected with COVID-19 at an earlier time have 1/6 the risk of infection after a longer period of waning immunity as compared to those who have had 2 doses of the vaccine. The researchers also compared the risk of serious illness in the 2 groups. They found that people who had 2 doses of the vaccine had 8 times the risk of serious illness than those who were naturally infected. The third group of people that the scientists studied were those who were naturally infected and then received 1 dose of the vaccine. The data showed that this group had a nearly 2-fold reduced risk of reinfection with Delta. In conclusion, these data show that the previously naturally infected population, although infected with a non-Delta variant, has a high level of immunity to the Delta variant, and that the overall protection lasts for a relatively longer period of time. Previously, Dr. Anthony Fauci had mentioned several times in his lectures that vaccines produce stronger immunity than that produced by natural human infections. The Israeli study seems to have completely overturned the perception. So, How serious is the pandemic in the United States? A recent study shows that the COVID-19 hospitalization numbers in the country might be highly exaggerated. Almost half of the hospitalized patients only show mild symptoms, which means they might be admitted to the hospital due to reasons other than COVID-19. The study was concluded by Harvard Medical School, Tufts Medical Center, and the Veterans Affairs healthcare system. Researchers pointed out that with routine and often mandatory COVID-19 screening testing of all admissions, the number of hospitalizations caused by the virus may be substantially overestimated. The report declared, in a pediatric population, 41% of reported admissions associated with SARS-CoV-2 infection were for reasons other than COVID-19. Two previous studies reached similar conclusions. One claimed that most hospitalized children who tested positive for COVID-19 were asymptomatic or had a reason for hospitalization other than COVID-19. The other study concluded that 45% of admissions were categorized as unlikely to be caused by SARS-CoV-2. New York City began enforcing the COVID-19 vaccine on Monday, with Mayor Bill de Blasio requiring businesses to post signs and verify customers' proof of COVID-19 vaccine. The mayor warned that those who do not comply with the rules will face serious consequences. On Saturday, thousands of people gathered in Manhattan to express their discontent with the vaccine mandate and the vaccine passport imposed by Bill de Blasio. The protesting crowd first gathered at Columbus Circle by Central Park and then marched to Times Square. They chanted "No Vaccine Mandate" as they marched in the city. The demonstrators also chanted, "We will not comply," and "My body, my choice."
We will not comply! We will not comply! We will not comply! My body, my choice! No vaccine! My body, my choice!
Joe Rose, one of the march leaders, was interviewed by Sound of Hope and said, "It seems that the Chinese Communist Party is being used as a role model for the United States." She questioned whether the CCP is an enemy of the United States because they act as if they are our ally. But if we allow this Chinese-style policy to continue to happen, all the countries of the world will fall together. At the rally in Times Square, people talked about defending their rights and opposing tyranny. One pastor spoke out, "God made us with freedom and choice. We have the right to choose how we live our lives. It is our personal choice whether we want to be vaccinated or not. God is the only one who can truly watch over us, not the government." Okay, this is our show for today. I'm going to be away for the rest of the week to attend a family wedding and to take some much needed time off. If you need more Front Page, please join us on our membership site where we have in-depth reports and sensitive news that you cannot see on YouTube. And again, if you like what you heard, please don't forget to like and subscribe this video and share it with at least one of your friends, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.